Okay, guys. I think we got everybody here. Katie's coming in a little late. But go ahead and take a seat. Front row people, I don't want to spit on you, I promise. I'll make it real passionate and it might happen.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, welcome to the Nutrition Clinic. And big thing that we're going to talk about today is just giving you knowledge, right? So a lot of us know some things about nutrition. Some of us don't know a lot about nutrition. Some of us have done certain diets in the past with maybe success or not success, right? But regardless, you're here for a reason, right? You want more knowledge or you don't have any knowledge, right? One of the two, okay? But you are going to get more knowledge today. We're going to talk about the two options that you're going to be able to choose from for the 8-week challenge. And then after, at the very end, we'll get some initial measurements for you guys, because that's how we know this thing is going to work, right? Is if you have measurements to go off of pre and post, okay? This presentation is meant to be, interactive, so if you have questions, I have a question slide at the very end, but don't hesitate to interrupt me with questions if you have them before that, okay? Cool, let's get started. Okay, so we gotta first define fitness and health. Fitness, in CrossFit's definition, is your work capacity across broad time and modal domains, right? How fast can you go, how far can you go, how much can you lift, right? How much can you, all of that stuff, right? So that's your fitness. And your health is your fitness throughout your lifetime. When we talk about fitness, that work capacity across broad time and modal domains, we go into the focus of logging your results, right? If you look at this graph, and can everybody see this okay? There's not any glare or anything, okay? Right? We take our data that we get from our workouts, we can plug it into the power equation, our force times distance divided by time gives you work, right? Our force times distance divided by time gives you power. That's what I'm looking for, right? So we can plot that power output for each workout that we do on a graph, right? You have your time domain on the left is low time, and then high time to the right, and then power output. So those X's in the top right corner, that's things like your 100-meter sprint time, your 1 rep max deadlift, right? Those are what's plotted there. Then you go out to something like 30 minutes and beyond. That's your MRF time, right? For most of us, MRF takes 45 plus minutes to complete, okay? We had some other workouts this past week or two that were more in that 30-minute time domain, okay? So you can actually plot these if you want to get real nerdy with your data. You can put it through that equation and plot this graph. The area under that curve, right, that curve is your average across all of those plotted data points. The area underneath is your work capacity, right? So our goal in here when we practice CrossFit is to increase all of those times up so the area under the curve increases. So we have a higher work capacity, okay? This is a snapshot in time, right? So that could be like in a year, these were the CrossFit workouts that I did. And in the year of 2025, this was my work capacity, okay?
So if we increase that, Mel, does that mean our health improves and our fitness improves?
We're getting there.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely means our fitness has improved,
Okay.
right? When we talk about, so continuing on with that, we're gonna get to that. It's a
Okay.
great question, right? Fitness, so we talked about how it's based on measurable, observable, and repeatable data, right? Those weights that you do, how often or how fast you do it at, right? The times you record, the rounds and reps. That's your measurable, repeatable data. Then we have this definition that allows us to gauge our current fitness accurately, right? Let's see. When we talk about your work capacity, it's a direct product not only of your training protocol, but of your lifestyle factors in your diet, which is what we're going to tie in today, right? A lot of you guys already come here consistently. You're doing the thing of fitness, right? But we also know that lifestyle factors, how we take care of our body, and outside of the gym with diet, sleep, recovery, is also going to play a big role into how good our fitness is going to be, okay? When we talk about health, it's fitness across your lifetime. So then we take that same graph and we put the Y, not the X and Y axis, the Z, thank you, the Z axis, right? I've been out of college for a long time here. Me, Kathy, here to help me with that. We can put that Z axis of age, right? So we take that snapshot of what was my fitness and that work capacity under my curve at 2025, whatever age I was there. Then you can do that same thing across your lifetime. Our goal is to keep as much as we can area under the curve over our lifetime, right? What will happen if we don't do anything with our fitness is that area under the curve will naturally decrease, right? It is within our control at the rate that it decreases at and by how much, okay? So when we talk about health, we're looking at that area under the curve over your entire life, okay? Let's see. I'm looking up at there and I can't really see it very well, so hopefully you guys can see it. I think it's the angle that I'm at. When we talk about bridging these two together, right? The bridge between fitness and health is nutrition, okay? So how we get better health over your lifetime is going to be by focusing on nutrition, okay? When we eat certain things, it's gonna undermine the work that we do in the gym, okay? So this is where we're gonna talk about why nutrition is so important, okay? In CrossFit, we have what's called the hierarchy of the development of an athlete. All of you guys are athletes, okay? Everybody who does CrossFit, okay? To be clear, that's what athlete means. A human being is an athlete, okay?
So cute.
So when we talk about what we're doing in here, we kind of like immediately look at the top, right? Like sport. Don't just think about like playing basketball or playing soccer. It's, hey, do I want to go learn how to surf? Because that sounds really cool. Or hey, do I want to go do this cross-country ski race with my buddy because I think it'd be really fun with them. That's your sport, right? That's why we're doing this thing called CrossFit, so we can do those things, one, like have the ability to do them and not question whether we can or not, right? But everything below it, weightlifting, gymnastics, metabolic conditioning, all of those things are only going to be as good as our base is. What's our base? Nutrition, right? So if we only focus on hitting the gym, I really want that handstand coach, I want to be walking into the wall or doing a free handstand walk, awesome, that's so great. You work every hour in the gym, you come in early, you work on it, right? But then every time you go outside of the gym, you're pounding tower stations and eating bonbons all day, then you're really not going to get to that goal of a handstand walk, right? Very quickly, okay? So this is just giving you the idea of we have to hone the bottom first in order to prime the top, okay? When we talk about going into how we focus on nutrition in general, we have the 100 words of fitness over here. This is like what we jokingly call the CrossFit Bible, okay? It's up there if you ever want to read it. But the first sentence is what we're actually going to focus on, which is the nutritional recommendation from CrossFit. Eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar, right? Seems simple, huh? It is when you write it down, okay? And then it also says keep intake to levels that will support exercise but not body fat. Again, it's not rocket science. It's eating whole, healthy foods, limiting processed foods and sugary things, right? And eating the amount that you need to sustain the activities that you're doing, right? So going back into our key points about what we just talked about, okay? We define fitness as work capacity across broad time and modal domains. Health is fitness across your lifetime, right? They are linked, and the bridge between them is nutrition, okay? The nutrition is a critical foundational piece, right? Whether your goal is to avoid chronic disease or perform the best at the thing that you want to do, say marathons, right? Nutrition is the way, okay? Again, the recommendation and how we do this, eats and vegetables. Eats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, okay?
I eats it.
So now what we're going to go into is just giving you a little bit more information on how nutrition affects our health, right? Positively or negatively. Some facts for you, which should scare you a lot, okay? Globally, obesity has tripled since 1975, okay? In 2006, more than 1.9 billion people were overweight, right? And 650 million were obese, okay? And those numbers are increasing every single year. It's estimated that 70% of our deaths globally are caused by chronic diseases around metabolic disorders, things related to nutrition. Okay. The awesome thing is that it's largely preventable, but the hard thing is that it takes our willpower to say no to the Oreos, right? And the Girl Scout cookies, you like to just stand there. You want my cookie? Yeah, okay, that's what we gotta avoid, right? It's preventable through a solid diet, right?
Just
And then-
picturing Mel screaming, "Death peddler!"
Death peddler.
Yeah, no, I am definitely immediately the person that's like, I'll take 5 boxes. I know my weaknesses. What are yours, right? And the specific thing that we're going to talk about in how nutrition relates to our health is insulin resistance. You guys have probably heard a lot about this, right? Insulin resistance is typically comes about by the overconsumption of carbohydrates, specifically highly processed, right, sugary things. That's what companies are wanting you to buy. They're highly palatable. They don't fill you up very much. You go back for more constantly, right? So those are the things that help, or that over time, if we consume those at a large volume consistently, is going to make you insulin resistant, which we're going to talk about a little bit more what that means here. We talk about metabolism, right? What you eat determines what happens with you metabolically, right? Whether you store fat or you utilize it, okay? We're going to talk about macronutrients and how those play into your metabolism. But the two things we're going to start with are the main metabolic hormones, which is insulin and glucagon. Okay? So you have a blood glucose, right? And it fluctuates throughout the day, okay? In general, there's an area that you want to stay in between, right? I forget if it's like 70 to 140, right? Whenever you eat really sugary or processed things, it will spike above, right? Insulin is the job of storage hormone, right? It decreases your blood sugar. So when that line, you eat something, it spikes high, your blood glucose or your blood sugar, insulin comes in, right? Takes that out of your bloodstream and either utilizes it or stores it. Okay. Glucagon is the opposite. Jeez, can't really seem to find my words today, right? It's your mobilization hormones. That's when, if you're here and you've dropped below that average line, that's what's going to release, right? Glucagon is going to increase your blood sugar to come back up to normal levels. Your body's always trying to find this balance, okay? So insulin, and we're mainly going to talk about insulin because that's the issue here with a lot of our chronic diseases, not glucagon, insulin, okay? Its primary minute-by-minute job, like we talked about, is to control blood sugar, okay? It drives it out of the blood tissues, right, to either be used for energy or stored for later use, okay? That's the biggest thing people need to understand is that if you're not regularly exercising, right, insulin, like when we talk about blood glucose, it's used to fuel your brain, your tissues, your organs, your muscles, right? And so your body needs that constantly, like food, and it needs to utilize that. But what happens is when we eat too much food and we're constantly spiking that blood sugar, we're now asking it to use that second thing of storing it because it's like, well, I might need this for later use. What does it store it as? Fat. That's right. You guys all know this already, right? It stores it as fat, okay? And then we're not looking for no fat, right? Nobody has a body percent fat of 0. You need to have some fat. It's how much fat are you storing, okay? When we have hormonal control, we eat, our insulin rises, it does its job for removing the sugar, and then everything falls back to normal levels, okay? So that's where we want to be. What happens though is that we eat in a way where we have chronically high insulin levels, and that's what makes us ill. That's what causes these metabolic conditions, right? And there's a lot there that you can see in that picture, right? Things like POS, heartburn, low HDL, hypertension, right? Elevated triglycerides. All of these have been linked back to metabolic disorders, okay? The biggest one that you guys always hear about is type 2 diabetes, right? That's one of the biggest killers on, especially in America, right? But that is also a metabolic chronic disorder, is type 2 diabetes, okay? So what drives insulin up? Generally overeating, right? Remember those things that we talked about, or the second sentence that we talked about, keep levels that support exercise but not body fat, right? Oftentimes when we go out to eat, okay, how big are those portion sizes? Huge, right? But it's just like if we're used to having that in front of us, right? If my brownie's always this big, well, guess what? I'm gonna eat that whole freaking brownie because I love brownies, right? But really, a better portion is like a fourth of that brownie, right? And so it's not, don't think of it as a fault of your own, right? We are surrounded constantly by large portion sizes, right? But overeating in general is what's going to drive that insulin up, and specifically eating highly processed sugary things, okay? What brings it down? Limiting or decreasing those carbohydrates, right? Especially the processed ones, okay? The awesome thing is that even if someone has type 2 diabetes, if they implement a protocol of what we're about to talk to next, right? One of our options for this challenge, if they focus on eating whole healthy foods, right, in this order, and they keep their levels to normal levels, they can reverse that chronic disease, which is really cool, right? That's really cool that can happen. Your body wants to heal itself. It wants to find an equilibrium, okay? It just needs to have a chance. So let's now bring in what we call the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum in CrossFit. So you maybe have heard me talk about this before. I've done some whiteboard education is what I call it sometimes in the past. Katie's nodding her head. She was probably here for that. But the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum is just a scale, right? It's a sliding scale. There are many things about your health, things that the doctor's office takes for you all the time, or you're always stepping on the scale, right? All of those are data, and that data can be plotted on this graph, okay? You have things like blood pressure, body fat, triglycerides, right? These are all numbers and data that you can plug into this. We can even plug in like your data from here, right? A 1 rep max deadlift. If you can only lift your body weight once, right? That's more towards the sickness. If you can do 1.5 times your body weight in your 1 rep max deadlift, that's wellness. Fitness is like 2 times your body weight, okay? There's a lot of things that we can plot on this graph. These give you, right? This is was included in your email, but this is like a general outline of what would your blood pressure look like in that sickness, wellness, fitness, right? Blood pressure above 140/90 would be sickness, okay? Wellness is 120/80, and you see how that goes there, okay? Kind of gives you a general guideline, okay?
So you can be sickness in one, but then maybe wellness in another.
Yeah, so you could take, right, a few of those data points, and you can find an average,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Okay.
Kind of same as our graph that we did for our work capacity. Have your average.
Okay.
So if you're at the fitness end of the continuum, the focus of the continuum is that we want to move all of our markers towards, for you guys, I'm trying to make sure I do it right, towards the fitness, right? Towards the right, okay? Because if we are more towards the right, we're going to experience a longer decline than someone who's more near the sickness, right? The whole goal is that if we have something happen in life, we have a baby, our family member passes, we have to move cities, right? Things that will knock us off our regime of exercise or eating well, right? That's going to affect your health. And how that affects your health and how far you are on that continuum, right? You have much longer to fall back if you're over here than if you only started here, if you're between sickness and wellness. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Just a very simple way of thinking about it, okay, which I really like. Where you are at on the continuum, nutrition plays a big role in that, okay? How you eat day to day and over time. Like we talked about, the whole goal is to move towards that fitness end with all of our metrics, okay? Combining diet and exercise is the most significant way you can move that, okay? You're already doing the fitness thing, which is awesome. Now we just gotta dial in that nutrition, that diet. So when we talk about improving those health markers, right? They have that picture there of like probably what you've seen at your doctor's office, right? And then sometimes they're nice and they highlight them in red, yellow, or green. That would be nice if they did that. Oftentimes I don't give you any information. If you're not having any symptoms and you look pretty good, they're like, okay, yeah, you're good. Your LDL's maybe a little low or whatever they're saying. They're like, yeah, you can maybe do this or that, but you're good. You're not that sick, okay? You really only are going to see people in our medical society when you're near this sickness, which is really sad to think about, right? That's when you're going to be treated, is when you're there. If you're even at wellness or close to wellness but still a little sick, like, they're not going to give you much attention, right? It's true, right? Which is unfortunate. So it has to be within our control to do that, okay? When it comes to treating chronic disease, metabolic chronic disease, it's very common for doctors to give prescribed medication. And if you are near that sickness level, you will need to probably have medication, right, to get you back towards wellness. What the problem is with our medical society is that it typically stops there. So once you get on the medication, you get better blood pressure or whatever it is, they'll be like, okay, great, you can stop taking the medication, we'll see you later, right? Yeah, maybe you should go eat some better food and exercise some. That's maybe what they'll tell you, right? So the problem with our medical society is that it stops really at treating, right, the issue with medication. So the root problem is ignored,
They
right?
treat
Diet and
the
exercise.
symptom.
Say again?
They treat the symptom.
That's
not
right.
the cause.
Yeah, exactly. They're not gonna see you again until you're back at that issue. So the root of the problem is really ignored. That's because the doctor only has maybe 15 minutes to spend with you in the room, right? Yeah. So let's see. Again, going back to, for a lot of people, a big root cause is gonna be that insulin resistance, which is, we can fix by focusing on our diet and exercise. And again, the solution is simple, yet not easy to implement, but it is minimizing your consumption of processed carbohydrates specifically, and eating more whole, healthy foods. So now we're gonna get into quality versus quantity. Okay, we're gonna start with quality and then move into quantity. For quality, right, we're gonna go back to that statement, eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar, right? That is around the quality of the food. What you don't see in there is Girl Scout Thin Mints, right? Like sourdough bread, you don't see stuff like that. And I'm telling you, right? It seems funny, but everything in that list is whole foods, okay? So that's the focus of quality, is that you're eating mainly whole foods and you're staying, that's the perimeter of the grocery store typically, right? Not in the center aisles, okay? This way of eating whole healthy foods is gonna reduce your overall carbohydrate intake, because if you're eating whole healthy foods, they're naturally going to be less in carbohydrates, okay? They will have carbohydrates, but they will be quantifyingly less, okay? You also, with this, get some quantity around it. So when we talk about fruit, it says some fruit, and we'll get into why that is. It says little starch and no sugar, which is such a bummer, isn't it? Okay. The big goal here, guys, is when we talk about eating for quality, that's what's going to start to move our needle from sickness to wellness. So if you're in that category, that's where we're focusing on, is the quality of food that you eat, okay? All right, now we're gonna play a little game. Cool. Which of these are whole foods? Whole foods are things that are perishable, right? They don't have a 1 to 3 year shelf life, okay? They are found in nature. They are typically not packaged, although they can be. And they are minimally processed. When I say minimally processed, when you take a look at that label on the back, it means a short ingredient list. There's not a lot going on there, okay? Salmon.
Whole.
Whole, I agree with that. Marine calendars.
No.
Guys, there's 17 grams of protein.
Yes. And those carbohydrates in that crust are gonna be.
Yeah, look at the ingredient list of this one, right? Holy crap, there's things I can't even pronounce in there. Yeah. You should be wary. Yeah, what is that?
That just gives it that slip.
Chobani Greek yogurt. Non-fat.
I don't know. I'll say
I'd say
no.
whole food.
I'm gonna say no.
No.
I'm gonna say
I
no.
would say.
I would agree with Cecilia, right? right? When you look at the ingredient list, so minimally processed means like cutting up your veggies and sauteing them is a form of processing your food, right? Highly processed is what we're trying to avoid, okay? So when we talk about yogurt, as long as it doesn't have tons of sugar added in it, again, it has a short list.
Non-fat plain.
It
0
says
grams of
cornstarch.
Oh, cornstarch.
Well,
That's not
sugar
sugar.
to be in it. This is generally considered a whole
Okay.
food though, right?
Yeah.
You can find it in nature, you're gonna go milk it from
Oh,
a
you're
cow.
reading the,
right?
wait, you're reading the ingredients from the pot pie.
From behind it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Starts with the pot pie.
She's like, there's peas.
There's a I was like, there's like chicken in the yogurt too.
Okay. Whole foods. Some yogurts I would argue are less
Yeah.
whole
Okay.
foods.
You're
right?
right though, yeah. You're
Okay.
right though.
Brussels sprouts and feta.
Whole.
Oh yeah, I got some olive oil on there, good stuff, right? High protein?
No.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
20 grams
Did
of
you say
protein?
high
Zero
protein?
sugar. There's no
No.
sugar in it. You're right.
Very
That's the ingredient list. Okay, lot going on there. Again, don't know some of it at all. Okay, so let's talk about quality in relation to macronutrients. So who knows the 3 macronutrients? Jess, what is it?
Fat, carbs, and protein.
Yeah, that's right. That's our 3 macronutrients, right? So in general, right, macronutrients, just think of it as a food source that provides energy to your body. Okay, it comes in those 3 forms, right? And when you think about categorizing foods in this, most whole foods are going to have a little bit of both, maybe 2 or even all 3. But we categorize foods as one name depending on how much they have of that. Take salmon for example. There's quite a bit of good fats in salmon, but it has more protein in it than it does fat. So we generally consider it a protein macronutrient, okay? We're gonna put the macronutrients now back into the 100 Words of Fitness, that first sentence around nutrition. Eat meats and vegetables. Meat, that's your protein, right? So those are things that come from animals, beef, chicken, pork, turkey, right? Eggs, seafood, okay? Vegan sources can also be used, tofu, tempeh, beans, lentils. One thing about vegan is that typically they're going to be higher in carbohydrate, right, as options, and they also are typically highly processed, right? So when I have people come to me and say I eat a vegan diet, that's fine, but you need to be aware of that, okay? Especially if you're trying to hit a certain number of protein with that diet, okay? Vegetables, right? Next part of our eat meats and vegetables. Vegetables is your carbohydrate, okay? But a carbohydrate, like a piece of potato chip and a piece of carrot, that's a very different carbohydrate intake, okay? So plant-based items, okay? So the big focus here is that they're digestible carbohydrates. They have typically a lot of fiber. Fiber is going to be huge in helping you appropriately digest foods and then getting the right nutrients into your bloodstream, okay? Nuts and seeds, that's your fat, right? Simple things, walnuts, pecans, even your oils that you're using, coconut oil, olive oil, right? Butter, cream, lard, okay? Note that vegetable oils aren't included in my list, and we're going to talk a little bit about why in later slide, but in general, they have negative effects on your health, okay? So that's why they're not included in our nuts and seeds, okay? Some fruit, right? That's your carbohydrate. So fruit is also carbohydrate, just like vegetables. However, they're higher, right, in carbohydrate. That's why you have that limiter of some, okay? Versus you can eat however many vegetables you want, okay? But you're gonna eat some fruit, okay? You still get the wonderful benefit of your fiber, minerals, and vitamins from your fruit, just like your veggies, okay? Little starch, that was the next piece of the sentence, okay? So now carbohydrate again, and we have that little plus symbol now. So it's a higher amount of carbohydrates when you eat starches. So that's again why they're putting little in front of it, trying to minimize that, okay? Things like grains, potatoes, legumes, okay? Your last one is no sugar, right? Carbohydrate plus, right? A lot of carbohydrates and sugar. And they come in many different forms, and people food companies are really good at hiding them in the ingredient list to, when you read it, you question whether it even is sugar. We're not gonna get into that, but be wary, okay? But in general, we wanna try to limit sugar completely, okay, as much as we can. Okay, key points of quality eating. Overall, the recommendation of, right, this helps you get balance across all your macronutrients. If you mainly eat meats and vegetables, you're already taking care of your protein and your carbohydrates. And the next thing listed right after that is nuts and seeds, which is taking care of your fat. Okay. Let's see what else. We talked about meats and vegetables. No limiting terminology on those, right? Protein is really going to be your satiating one. It's going to make you feel full, which helps you, right? If you are constantly eating the higher processed foods, those are designed to make you want more in an hour. They really are. Companies are actually trying to make them more palatable, but less nutrient, so then that way you go back more, you keep buying more. So unfortunately, they're not for us. They're not with us on our health, which sucks, but that is the facts, okay? While we don't have an explicit limit on nuts and seeds, right, you do want to focus on not trying to overeat too many nuts and seeds, okay? Let's see. Next thing. So when we talk about quality eating whole and healthy foods, that's what I talked about is going to help you move the needle from sickness to wellness, right? If we eat unlimited consumption of processed foods, you're going to be more near that sickness, okay? So trying to eat more whole, healthy foods is going to move you towards wellness, okay? Also, too, just eating general whole foods is going to take care of your micronutrients as well. We talk about macronutrients, micronutrients, your vitamins and minerals. If you're eating whole, healthy foods, you're going to naturally get that from those, okay? Also, too, it's going to help improve these guys, right? All of your metrics if you start to eat whole, healthy foods. The next thing that we're going to talk about here is how do we start to move the needle from wellness to fitness, and that's around the quantity of your food, okay? Before we get into that, one thing about omega-3 and omega-6, who's heard about that, right? Yeah, if you don't raise your hand, I'd be very skeptical. Our society likes to talk about this a lot. The truth is we need both, guys. We need both omega-6 and we need omega-3 as well, okay? Omega-6 is your inflammatory, omega-3 is your anti-inflammatory, okay? So omega-6 is not a bad thing. We need it, okay? A healthy ratio is 2 to 1 of omega-6 to omega-3. However, the average diet for an American puts that at 20 to 1.
What's an example of an omega?
I got a slide for us, yeah.
Okay,
We're
there
gonna
you
talk
go.
about that, but this is good, right?
Yeah.
So let's see what last thing. So just means that in general, most of us will probably need to focus on limiting our omega-6s, okay? So getting to Jess's point, we're gonna play another little game here. Which of these oils, right? So a lot of what we prepare food with is oils, right? Which one of these oils are low in omega-6, so desirable if they have low omega-6, and which ones are high in omega-6, which would be undesirable?
And we want high.
We want low in
Low,
omega-6.
low.
So we want omega-6 in our diet, right? But we want to make sure we're trying to limit the amount of omega-6.
So avocado would be low.
Yeah, what do you think?
Low.
I would say low.
Yeah.
I agree. Avocado is low in omega-6, so it is more undesirable. Grapeseed oil,
High.
high. Good job. Undesirable. Olive oil,
Low.
low. Desirable. Safflower oil,
High.
high. Undesirable. Okay. Canola oil,
High.
high. Man, you guys got some good knowledge. High. Undesirable. Sunflower
High.
oil,
Oh wait, no, low.
High end.
I'm gonna say low.
low. High. High.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's high because I have the answer in front of me.
High. Undesirable. Good job, Katie. Way to follow along. Star student. Coconut oil.
Low.
Low, desirable. So when we go to places like, or when you're cooking at home, you have control, right? Just always use olive oil, right? That's what I do, okay? The problem comes is when we start to eat out, because things that are desirable, avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil, these are more expensive, right? So when you talk about restaurant business making money, they're gonna choose the less desirable omega-6. So they're gonna use a lot of that. And so a lot of what we're seeing is that if you eat out a lot, that's gonna probably push that ratio up of higher omega-6 in your diet, okay? Unfortunately, you have to try to limit how many times you eat out or choosing where you eat out at. Like there are some really good places, of course they're gonna be more expensive, but they're gonna have on their menu, we're using, right, olive oil for our stuff. Like those are the places you wanna start to go to.
Where does lard, this is so gross to even think about, where does lard, like I love Mexican food,
Uh-huh.
it's like my hands down favorite, like,
Yeah.
we know it's in their beans, like.
Yeah, so-
where is that all, like,
Yeah, you're talking like
if you're doing
tallow.
it right, it's in the beans.
You're talking like
So,
beef tallow, right? Lard.
Beef, or
Yeah.
lard.
Lard.
So that
If
is
it falls in the
desirable.
meats, that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's desirable fat.
I figured,
okay?
but I thought I'd ask.
Same thing though, it's the quantity of it.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
probably in the Mexican restaurants not just using lard. They're
Right.
probably using some other oil as well, right?
I think there is also a vegetable oil version of lard that I've used personally, like, cause my.
Like the
my-
Crisco stuff?
Yeah, like my grandma has it,
Yeah.
you know, like, yeah, and so there's like a vegetable oil
Sure.
version
That
of it.
sounds like
but I
completely
think
unvegetable.
It's disgusting.
Have you
Yeah,
seen
me
it?
like
It's like motor oil, it's just.
Does that answer your question, Jess?
Thank you, yep.
Okay, so when we talk about setting up for success of just trying to eat whole, healthy foods, right? The first step of eating quality foods, and then we'll talk about quantity. But setting up for success is really just removing all of the temptations in your house. Because your willpower doesn't mean shit when it comes to making, like when you had a hard day, when your kid's been screaming at you, right? Whatever it is, like you're not gonna have the willpower to be like, no, Ben and Jerry's, like I'm okay, you know? It's just not in us, and that's okay. We just have to recognize that. So the best thing that you can do is remove as much highly processed and sugary things from your cabinets. Take away the temptation completely. Right? So that way you're better able to make decisions when you are stressed in the moment. Okay? Trying to remove obviously all the sugar, those industrial seed oils if you have them. Again, willpower is not a feasible strategy. I've never seen it be a feasible strategy for anybody. Okay? But keep them out of the house, right? I call them red light foods. Just remove them. Get them out of your house. Red light foods. Okay? Or if you're gonna have a red light food, limit how much of that red light food you're gonna have in it. Have your spouse help you out and say, hey, can you hide the rest of these or throw them away? I just want this one, right? Okay. The next piece is, yeah. The next piece is restocking your pantry, fridge, or freezer with whole, unprocessed foods. So those are the things that you grab for when you're hungry. It's the only option that you have if that's what you stock in your kitchen, okay? We, in your email, I gave you a lot of documents. One of those was a starter shopping list. That list has all whole healthy foods on it. You can use that list the next time you go grocery shopping, okay? Having healthy snacks, specifically, like readily available, is gonna be huge, right? It's when we're stressed that we're gonna make the worst choices, okay? So the best that you can do is set yourself up for success before those moments happen, and having those things ready to be like, that's right, I don't have any Ben & Jerry's, clean that out, but I prepped these freaking carrots, I'm gonna go take them and eat them and enjoy my life, right? Not really, you're probably gonna be like, I really want that Ben & Jerry's, but you don't have the choice, you're gonna eat the carrots, okay? Also, when you think about starting to make foods, like a lot of us aren't just gonna eat a carrot and then some yogurt, you know, like we might on our snacks, but when we talk about making meals and combining things, think about preparing them simply, right? Try to get a fat in there, try to get a protein, try to get a carbohydrate in the form of vegetables ideally, okay? Build your meals around that. In general, beverages, you wanna try to not get your calories from beverages, right? So no soda, right? You really should be trying to limit that. If you are someone who drinks soda regularly, start with, can I drink one less a day? Start small. If you can do that, then take another one away, right? I love beer. God, I love beer. And I love IPA, and it's freaking caloric. It's so caloric. I have to limit myself, right? I'm still gonna enjoy that. I've decided that I don't wanna give that up, but I have to limit myself on that, and I have methods for that, okay? All right, let's talk about quantity. So this is how you're gonna move the needle from wellness to fitness, okay? And this is focusing on supporting exercise but not body fat. That's second part of the sentence of fitness in 100 words, okay? The general recommendation, meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, offers general guidelines around quantities. We've already talked about that, those kind of limiting words, right? Some, little, no. But if you want to optimize getting as close as you can to fit values, you're going to have to weigh and measure your food. And it's hard, I'm not going to lie. I've done it myself. I've failed. I've succeeded in many different things around that, okay? I'm not saying it's easy, but that is how you're going to optimize your fitness. Is weighing and measuring. When we talk about quality in macronutrients, a general great place to start is 40% carbohydrates. So 40% of your calories in a day come from carbohydrates, 30% come from fat, and the other 30 come from protein. Okay, that's a really good starting base. It's not the only, right? We have some people who work with higher carbohydrates or lower protein, but in general, that's where we say to start. It's a good balance, okay? Let's talk about protein, right? We talk a lot about that, especially for women and especially as we get older. When you talk about body composition, you want a washboard ab. You really gotta not only eat whole healthy foods and eat good 30%, but like the 30% of your protein needs to be closer to like 1 gram per pound of body weight. Okay. For a lot of people, if you've never tracked your protein, right, on an app, and you know what a typical piece of chicken that you like to eat, how many grams of protein that is, it can be a shock, guys, at how much protein this actually is, 0.7 to 1.
Your
Okay.
blood work can even show it.
Absolutely.
Mine did before, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So what I like to tell people is like in general that says 0.7 to 1. I recommend a lot of people start at 0.7. Like if you've never tracked your protein, you don't know, but you're gonna start. Okay. Start with just trying to get 0.7 grams per pound of body weight every day. Okay.
7 grams.
Per
Per
pound.
pound.
Yep.
That's a lot.
It is.
That's
It is.
a lot.
But
I know my
it's
number.
what
That's a
it's
lot.
what's needed. It's what's needed for sure. And where you're going to choose on this scale, I already kind of touched on this, whether you are going to do 0.7 or closer to that 1 gram is going to be based on your goals, right? If you're just looking for like general health, 0.7. But if you're someone who like, I want to get ripped for a competition or whatever, you're going to be closer to 1, okay? But yeah,
0.7?
most people in our society are under eating in protein, and that is a huge issue, okay? Let's see, other things to recommend for quantity, right? Eating within a 12-hour window. So like that's, you can say it's fasting, right? But in general, just trying to limit how often are you eating throughout your day, right? We don't want to immediately wake up and start like shoving carbohydrates in our mouth, and we don't want to eat a really heavy dinner and immediately go to bed. That might happen from here, like here and there, and that's okay, right? But how often does that happen? You need to be asking yourself that. Also eating 3 to 5 meals a day. You need your 3 main meals, and then probably like 1 or 2 snacks for most of us, especially if you're a pretty active person, okay? What else? Buying a simple food scale or measuring cups, okay? And we'll talk about that when we get to the challenge and the options. We're gonna close this door.
Okay, guys, please.
So, if we start to track those macronutrients, we get that split of 40, 30, 30, we start to weigh and measure our food with cups and measuring plates, right? If you do that consistently, that's where you're gonna start to move wellness to fitness, right? Weighing and measuring whole foods, okay? Also, still going to increase all of your measurements, okay? A note on supplements. So I get a lot of questions on supplements. And things are, to give you examples of this, protein powders, creatine, vitamins, prebiotics, probiotics, whatever. All I'm gonna say is in general, be wary. Those companies are trying to make money. And they are not, they don't know you as a person, they don't know what your goals are, right? They just want your money. And oftentimes, how you get the things that they're trying to sell you is actually through eating whole, healthy foods. So they want you to think that you need this thing in order to get a good vitamin D level. You may, right? But in general, if you were to focus more on the day-to-day things you put in your mouth over a long period of time, I guarantee you will not need that supplement, okay? So in general, be wary, okay? Also, another thing to note too, a lot of these supplements aren't required to be USDA tested at all.
Scary.
At
Oh, it's
all.
only gonna get worse.
Yeah,
Okay.
So you know.
Right? So that's another thing, you don't know the quality of them, okay? You can, I mean, we really just don't, okay? And if you do end up wanting to try something, right, any of these supplements, you want to try them, all I'm gonna recommend to you is that you take data on it. You take it consistently, right? So you say, I'm gonna take this creatine supplement. It's supposed to say that I'm supposed to feel better in my workouts. Great. I start taking it day 1. I'm gonna note down in a journal, what did I feel like on day 1 in my workout? I'm gonna take it day 2. I'm gonna be consistent with taking it, probably over 30 to 60 days, ideally, at least 4 weeks of it. And then I'm going to, over time, each day, ask myself, do I feel better in my workouts? That is the only way you can answer for yourself if the supplement is working for you, okay? Cool. Data, it's in the data, people. You gotta take that data. Okay, so how are we gonna put this into practice? This is where we're getting into the 8-week challenge that we're gonna do here at the gym. Option 1 is the 800-gram challenge. So E.C. Sikowski is a nutritionist, wonderful person. She has a PhD in nutrition and she's done a lot of really cool things. The 800-gram challenge is the thing that she created that she's finding a lot of success with people. And so this is our first option. This option is focusing on moving the needle from sickness to wellness. This is a great option for you, whether you choose option 1 or 2. I'm going to give you some, hopefully, ideas here on which option you should choose. Option 1 is a great option if your current nutrition choices don't consist of at least 90% or more of whole unprocessed foods, okay? Also, this is an option for you if you have never implemented a nutrition plan or successfully completed a mainstream diet. So if you've never done a nutrition plan before, or say you did some diet with your friend and it was supposed to be a 12-week challenge, and yeah, you made it really strong through 2 weeks and then it just kind of fell off, right? That happens with a lot of us, okay? This plan's for you, okay? You have also, if you have a really busy schedule and you struggle to find time for yourself, this is it too, okay? Because it's simplifying for us what we need to do to help move that needle forward, okay? The goal of this option, if you choose it, is to eat 800 grams of fruits and vegetables a day, okay? It puts the focus on consuming whole and processed foods, and it fills you up on those things, and then that way you're less likely to eat the bad stuff, okay? That's the whole goal with this. It doesn't say you can't have the Ben & Jerry's. It doesn't say that you can't have the IPA, right? But it's saying you have to get 800 grams in a day, right? It's also a really great baby step intro to start measuring food, right? All you're gonna do is measure your fruits and vegetables. You can start to realize like how challenging it can be to weigh and measure your food, okay? So baby step into that. One thing I want you to know, we talked about a lot about the eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, and how there was like a lot of like some fruit and however many veggies you want. In this option, guys, I don't want you to overthink that piece, okay? And if you look through the information I sent you on the option 1 in the email, right, she's also gonna say that in there. If you want 800 grams of freaking fruits, do it, right? Don't overcomplicate it, because whatever you're eating that's not, right, like you're still gonna get a benefit even if you eat all fruits probably, okay?
Bananas aren't Cheetos.
Yes, exactly, right? A lot of people are like hating on bananas right now, like that's not the problem, that's not the problem. So, it's okay if you have more fruits and veggies, okay? What you're gonna need if you choose option 1, right? You're gonna need to read through that 800-gram challenge material that I sent to you via email. Okay, I tried to label it with the title so you can easily know which ones to read. You're gonna need to buy a food scale so you can weigh 800 grams, okay? Put it on your kitchen counter, keep it there, so every day you walk in your kitchen, you know, gotta go weigh that, okay? You need to stock your fridge with lots of fruits and veggies, specifically ones that you love. If you don't like beets, don't buy beets, right? Like, buy shit you like.
They're so good.
Okay. I like beets, but
They're
so not
sugar,
no
it's
Brussels
a-
sprouts,
they're
people
sugar.
have strong feelings about that,
Oh,
so.
I love
But buy the things you love that you know you'll eat. That seems so simple, but that is the best way to do this, guys, right? It's not just like, yeah, I'm gonna go do this thing, I'm just gonna buy all the meats or the vegetables and fruit that I can see at the store or whatever's on sale. Like, if you don't like it, you're not gonna eat it, okay? So buy the things you like and prep your fridge with that, okay? Also, like pre-cut stuff, put it in Tupperware. So again, it's easily ready for you to grab when you're in those moments of stress, right, or high anxiety, okay? If you wanna look for an extra challenge, if you choose this option, you can focus on prepping one meal for the week using whole and processed foods. Maybe it's your lunches for the week that you prep on Saturday or Sunday, right? Maybe it's the one meal that you prep for your family, right? But start to prep some food and see what that's like. That can really help. In that same email I gave you, yeah?
What are your feelings on canned?
Canned
versus
foods?
Fresh, yeah.
Like
I think
salmon.
that just like anything, you should look at the ingredient menu on the back. So a lot of them are gonna have things that help keep them preserves. So, but I'm not against canned veggies or canned fruit. But if they have added sugar in them specifically in the fruit ones, I would be wary of that. But yeah, if that's like how you're gonna get it in, hell yeah, that's
Green
fine.
beans, yeah, out of the can is just, that's the,
But it's salt, the salt,
It's salt,
I think, but you burn it off, like, we don't have an issue.
Yeah, okay with it.
Are you gonna go into if we're weighing it before or after if we're gonna cook it?
No, I don't want you to overthink that. She will talk about that in that packet that I sent you guys via email. But in general, I think I forget what she says in the packet. I think she says to measure it before cooking,
Okay.
right? But like Renee says, you know, you ever sauteed spinach before?
Oh my
Jesus,
gosh.
you could pour a whole bag of spinach, right? And then when you saute it down, it's like, yes, right? Spinach doesn't weigh a lot, but like another example is mushrooms. They get a lot smaller when you saute them, right? In general, read the packet of whatever she says, but I would default to measuring it before you cook it. Yep, good question. You also have in that same email a lot of recommended recipe sites that are kind of tried and true. They're ones that the recipes in those sites have a great balance of macronutrients, protein, fat, and carbs in every single meal. Okay, so that could be one of the sites that you use to find a meal or meal prep. Okay, option 2 is going to be macro tracking. So this focus is moving the needle from wellness to fitness. This is a good option for you if you've successfully completed a nutrition challenge or diet in the past with 100% compliance, right? So again, going back to the, my friend and I were like on board for the first 2 weeks, we did really well, and then it kind of dropped off, okay? 100% compliance, you've done a successful nutrition challenge in the past. This is also a good option for you if your current food consists of 90% or higher whole unprocessed foods. Also, this is a good diet for you if you're someone who can easily distinguish between high and low sources of protein, carbs, and fat. You can look at something and be like, yep, that's mainly fat. Yep, that's mainly carbohydrates, okay? Also, if you are someone who can easily stick to a plan no matter the difficulty, this can be for you, okay? So, all I'm trying to say is that this option is a lot more work than the first one, okay? So you gotta make your choices based on that and knowing yourself. The goal in option 2 is to track all of your food and your macros on an app. I use MyFitnessPal. I currently don't use it because I needed to break from it, right? But that's what I've used in the past. There's many other apps out there, but you need to track your food, everything that goes in your mouth if you're doing this option, okay? It puts the focus on weighing and measuring, right? So that second piece, the quantity piece, okay? All of your food, and it's also gonna focus on getting that 40-30-30 split, okay? It's gonna require a significant amount of meal prepping, okay? For most people, meal prepping and planning. What are you gonna eat each day, okay? Option 2, what you're gonna need for this is you're gonna need to determine your macro split using the nutrient macro chart that I sent you via email. Let's go to that real quick. This guy, right? Okay, so with this, you have 4 different options, right? I weigh 160 pounds, that's why I have this pulled up. Inactive, sedentary, moderately active, active, and very active. For most people, right, active is what you're probably gonna wanna choose if you're consistently doing CrossFit and other things, okay, active. What I want you to notice is that for most people, that's gonna put you right at 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein. What did I say before? If you are 0.7 is probably, if you haven't tracked your protein before, 0.7. This is actually their lowest one for an inactive sedentary person. This is CrossFit's recommendation is 0.8. Okay, so what I'd recommend is if you are concerned about the protein, you can try it, right? Maybe you do a week and you try to get that 1 gram, okay? That starts to be really challenging for you, then you can choose this guy, okay? If you end up, so for example, right, 160, I'm trying to highlight this guy, sorry, right? I tried these numbers in my macros for a week or so, right? Really hard for me to get protein. I changed some things, right, about my eating to try to get more protein in, but I'm just not hitting it. What I can do is start to choose more of that 0.8, so 128, but you're probably going to want to increase your carbohydrates and fats. So you'll want to go 128 on protein, 234 on carbs, 78 on fat. Okay, so that's just a recommendation. But in general, don't overcomplicate it, guys. Try to hit the numbers as it's written. Okay?
What does that look like in a day? Do you know what I mean? Like I can't even fathom.
Yeah, I do it most days.
128,
Yeah,
to be
so
honest.
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Like the big focus, Jess, is that every time you eat, it has to have a significant amount of protein in. That's the focus. So I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then I have 2 snacks, right? My breakfast has 2 eggs, 1 egg white. It has some cheese in it, so it has some protein there. That's my main protein for that, right?
Mhm.
My snack is typically a shake that has some sort of fruit, protein powder. So powder does help me. I kind of would ideally not like to use a powder, but I found one that I liked.
Yeah.
And non-fat Greek yogurt. So that's a pretty high protein snack for me. Then at my lunch, I have typically a meal prep that has like chicken, beef, or something significant amount of protein in it, okay? And then my snack, the second snack is typically like string cheese, right? That has some good protein in it, and usually like turkey deli meat. Or I buy those pre-made whole turkeys at like Fry's. You see them in like the hot area, or you can pick up a whole one. Shred that at the beginning of the week, have that in a Tupperware, take some of that out, dip it in hummus, dip it in whatever. That's my second snack. And then dinner, same thing as lunch. I gotta have a significant amount of protein in there. And I can get 160 with that.
You can.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I thought I was.
And I'm not stuffing myself either.
I thought that was a good one.
No,
Okay.
no, I was worried about that.
Cool. Let's go back here. Current slide. One thing about that, guys, you'll see that the table in there will be based on your weight, okay? If you're someone who's looking to either decrease your overall weight or increase your overall weight, don't look at macronutrients plus or minus 10 above that. So say I'm 160, say I want it to be 140, I'm not gonna choose the macro numbers for 140. That's too much of a jump, it's too much of a shock to your system. If you're gonna choose that, it would be the macronutrients for 150 pounds. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No more or less than 10 pounds. And my general recommendation is before you even do that, just choose your body weight now and start to focus on what those macronutrients are there. I guarantee you'll see a positive impact even with that, okay? Other things you're gonna do if you choose option 2, you're gonna need to download a tracking app, right? I use MyFitnessPal. There's Noom, My Food Diary, tons out there, right? You're gonna need to log your food every day. You need to, in this option, adhere to plus or minus 10 grams of your daily target for your protein or your carbohydrates, and plus or minus 5 for your fats. Does So say I log in all my food for the day, okay? We go back to our chart here, and I choose the numbers that are highlighted, right? So if my protein at the end of the day is 150, great, that's plus or minus 10, it's right at the end of that scale. Say my carbohydrates were 223, fine, okay? But if my fats were, I don't know, 74 or something, does that make sense? Plus or minus 10 for the first two, plus or minus 5 for the second, okay? Anybody know why it's plus or minus 5 for fats versus keeping 10?
Sorry.
Did she say what you were gonna say? Yeah. A gram of fat, right, is more calorically dense than a gram of carbohydrate, right, or protein, okay? All right, also things, we already listed this in the previous option, but in option 2, utilizing those sites that I gave you to do a lot of meal prepping, right? Again, those things are helpful because they already give you meals that are like, this is a good amount of protein already if you use this, right? So that's what's really helped me in the past when I've implemented this macronutrient tracking, okay? One last thing that I want to talk about for this option. Who here drinks alcohol and enjoys alcohol?
Oh, wait, only one hand.
Right? I love alcohol, okay? I had linked in your email an alcohol, it gives you a calculator for tracking your macronutrients based on alcohol, okay? So you would use that if you would use this site if you drink alcohol and you chose option 2, okay? For fun, let's just talk about this for a second. I like IPAs, okay? Tower Stations is 7% beer, okay? 7% by volume. So I put 7% here. And I like the tall boys, of course. I don't want a 12 ouncer, I want the 16 ounces, okay? The thing about this converter is it allows you to use your fats or your carbohydrates. You can't use your protein, okay? So those are what you're gonna be using if you use your macronutrients for alcohol consumption, okay? A 16 ounce, 7% beer, if I did half and half, I wanted to use half fat, half carbs, I'm looking at 35 grams of carbs and 15 grams of fat, okay? Let's look back at, what was my allotted fat? 71, okay? Puts into perspective how much you're giving towards that, okay? If I ended up going, let's see, maybe I wanted to do all carbohydrates, right? 70 grams carbohydrates for that one beer, okay? Not saying you can't do it, you just gotta recognize, right? So I like this calculator because alcohol is very different in how we break down those sugars of alcohol, okay? So it's not gonna be the same as eating, right, a pizza or even like eating like a potato chip, okay? So use this if you're gonna use option 2 and you drink alcohol, okay? Cool. So we talked about our options. The commitment, let's get to that piece, right? Whether you choose option 1 or 2, we're gonna talk about what you need to commit to. So after I'm done with this talk, we're gonna talk about initial measurements, right? So we're gonna take those initial measurements. That's your data, right? So I have a scale in there. We're gonna take body weight. We're gonna take body fat percentage. It gives you skeletal muscle mass too, right? So going back to that kind of sliding continuum, it'll give you some data points, okay, that we can compare to before and after, okay? You gotta adhere to be clear, those initial measurements we're gonna take post, right? 8 weeks so you can compare them, okay? You gotta adhere to your chosen option, 1 or 2 for 8 weeks. Adherence, what does adherence mean? Ideally 100% compliance, okay? But we're humans, okay? So the big focus here is if you can't do 100%, use the 90-10 rule, okay? 90% of the time, I'm in compliance. 10% of the time, I'm out of compliance, okay? If you want to put that into perspective, this means at least 6+ days a week of your 7 days, you're eating 800 grams of fruits and veggies, you're tracking all your food and macros and hitting those numbers, okay? And you have maybe 1 off day, not every week, but, okay? Minimum 5 times a week of daily exercise. You need to attend CrossFit classes at least 3 times, ideally 4, right? But 5 times a week of daily exercises, okay? So whatever you're not doing in here, say you do 3 times a week here, but you need to get that 5 in. Maybe it's 2 hikes, right, with a ruck pack, or maybe it's something that gets your heart rate up, right, that is exercise outside of here. 5 times a week, yeah.
this may not apply, but if you're doing 2 in one day, does that count as towards that, or is it 5 days?
I'll let you decide that. I would encourage you to get 5 days of the week movement, right? Cause I can hit it hard, you know, in one day and do 3
Yeah, if
exercises
you're
and
like
then be
trying-
like, yeah, I'm good for the rest of the
You
week.
realize that like it's like a Friday, your thing rolls over on Saturday, and you're like, I gotta get 3 in today.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's good. Ideally, like, we don't wanna really do that, right? Cause that's not hitting the consistency piece and focus. Okay, good question. For my masters, it's 2 times a week, but still focusing on getting 3 other exercises in outside of your master's classes. Okay. Choose a buddy here, right, to help you hold accountable. Just like you guys come here every day to work out, you do that probably because you get to see your buddies, right? You know you're gonna throw down with them, you're gonna suffer with them, right? Like, a lot of us come to CrossFit, something like this, versus going to 24-hour fitness because it holds us accountable. Because if you're not here a couple days, right, I'm either gonna be texting you, Renee's gonna be texting you, Katie's gonna text Jess and be like, what the heck, right? It's a really powerful thing. So we use that for our exercise, use it for your nutrition too. Choose someone that you wanna check in with. And maybe ideally you're checking in with them every day, but maybe it's once a week, right? Okay, choose a buddy to check in with. You're gonna complete a weekly nutrition check-in sent via email, okay? Your first one is going to be tomorrow, actually today, when I send it out, okay? But this is also data collection, guys, so these are kind of just examples of questions that you're gonna get in this email. You can, I'm gonna be like BCC, so blind copy everybody. You can choose to respond to me if you want to, right? You can choose to write your response to these questions in a journal, okay? But I need you to reflect and write on these questions each week, okay? So things like, one of the first ones, you're gonna come up with a goal. What is your goal? Is it to educate yourself more around the amount of protein that you're eating every day or increasing that? Is it to feel better in the gym? Is it to move more, right? It doesn't have to be focused around nutrition. It could be a general goal that the nutrition will help you get there too, okay? You're gonna put in your initial, right? You're gonna not write it down, I'll write it down for you as we do this, right, in a little bit. But you're gonna have those initial measurements, so then when we retake them in 8 weeks, you have a comparison piece, okay?
So when does this, like, I guess a week start? So does it start on Saturday or does it start on Friday?
Saturday. is our
Woohoo,
first day.
tonight's party!
That's right, that's right.
Go Juanita, man!
Some other things, some other questions.
I know.
Sorry.
Okay, dancing on the bar.
Some of these other questions are gonna get you to think more about, like, how am I gonna implement this and keep implementing it week to week, right? The last thing that I want is for you guys to be real strong for the first 2 or 3 weeks and then have it wane off. So these check-in emails are helping you keep focus on this challenge over the 8 weeks, okay? What's your behavior goal? I'm gonna cut up fruits and veggies on Saturday so I have it ready for the week. I'm gonna meal prep my lunch, whatever it is. Write that goal down so you have it for that week, okay? You're also gonna start to check and take some data on other things. How were your hunger levels last week? How did you perform in the gym? How were you sleeping? All of those things and reflecting on that over a few weeks are gonna give you data, okay? Instead of just being like, well, I think I felt a little bit better, or, you know, like, if we're not taking consistent data, we really don't know, okay, how this affects us. So take that time to do these check-ins, okay?
I have a quick question as
Yeah.
you're transitioning. What about dried fruit? No. Like unsweetened, unsulfured dried fruit.
Oh, it's in the thing, dehydrated.
It's in the thing?
Yeah, it's
Oh, yep.
It's in no dry fruits. No.
It's
No
high
dry
in sugar.
fruits, I think is what you said, yeah, if you're choosing option 1.
We love dates.
That's sugar.
Dates I
are
think,
full of sugar, they're so
dates I
good.
think would be okay.
Unless they're dehydrated.
I think dates would be okay. But yes, in the part of the material that I sent out with you guys, especially for the 800 grams, it gives you a yes and no checklist, and it helps you, like, these things aren't what you can count towards your 800 grams, and these things are, right? That's what they were talking about.
I'm sorry, I haven't had a moment to read
It's
it
okay.
yet.
You didn't have to read it before, that's fine. You'll just read it after, and hopefully it'll answer your questions.
It's not saying you can't
I'll
do
read.
those things,
Yeah.
you just can't count it towards the 800.
Exactly.
Like you
Oh,
said,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
skills, they're beans, but they're rainbow beans, so they don't count.
They don't count.
Right. You can still eat your dried fruit, just can't count.
But regular beans do
I
count.
also don't recommend eating 800 grams of dates.
That'd be fun.
I actually don't think I really digest them as well, but I love them.
Yeah, they are very good. We talked about, okay, weekly nutrition check-in sent via email. We're gonna have a progress board up here with stickers. Everybody loves stickers, right? You're gonna put your name up here, okay? Each day, so this is 2 weeks. This is your first week. This is your second week, and we'll make more as the 8-week challenge goes on. But you have your daily nutrition check, right? If you're doing option 1, it's on the 22nd. Did I get 800 grams? Boom, put a star up there, okay? So the more stars, the better. Okay, so you have that check whether you're doing option 1 or option 2, and it's written up there as well, but always ask me or any of the coaches if you have a question on it. Also, you're checking in. Did you do 3 CrossFit classes or 2 for my masters in the week, and did you get 2 activities outside of that? Boom, you did, sticker, right? These are like at the end of the week, these bigger columns, okay? Last one is your completed check-in, that email. Did you write it down, right? Not just, okay, I'm gonna reflect on these questions, write it down. Send an email back to me, send an email to yourself, write it down in a journal, okay? You're gonna look at that data at the end of 8 weeks, okay?
We have to share it with you?
You don't, no,
Oh,
you don't have to share it with me. No. And the challenge begins tomorrow because we're not a diet starts on Monday kind of group here. We're gonna make it happen, cool? Questions? Okay. Other helpful tips to help you implement this challenge, right, whether option 1 or 2, inform your partner, family, or significant other that you're doing it. Let them know, right? If they're eating crappy stuff and you're trying not to, it's gonna be a lot harder, right? So get them on board, okay? That's gonna be super helpful. We've already talked about removing those red light foods, right? It's the first thing you can do when you go home. Talk to your significant other, then remove those foods, okay? Use that grocery list that I sent you guys that has whole healthy foods, okay? Don't grocery shop when you're hungry. Simple. Woo! Anybody here gone to the grocery store when you're hungry and then made some really poor decisions? I am the worst at that. The worst. So is Josh. Okay? Don't do it. Also, stay on the outside of the grocery store in general. Just ignore the middle aisles. That's where a lot of the highly processed food is. Okay? When you're eating out, look at the menu ahead of time, right? What are you going to order? Commit to that so that when you get there, you can look at the rest of the menu. I'm going to get that salad. I'm going to get that high protein and veggie thing that I saw, right? That can really help you make better choices when you go out to eat, okay? Also, eating small meals before you go out to eat. So, like, don't go to a restaurant starving, just like we don't want to go to the grocery store starving. So, like, have a little snack, right, before you go out and you know you're going to a place that you love, okay? It'll help you not overeat, okay? Meal prep as much as possible. Okay, especially for option 2. The more that you can prep a meal, you know the macronutrient split already, the better success you're gonna have, okay? In general, drink water consistently. That should be your main thing that you're liquid drinking, right? I'm totally fine with like Waterloo, La Croix, right? Totally fine with that, okay? Also have a plan for your downfall days. You are going to have them. You are going to get off the wagon at some point, and you're gonna have to get back on. What is your plan when that happens? Don't just, wait till it does happen and then figure it out then. Figure it out. Maybe it's I gotta tell my buddy that I'm, decided to buddy up with, say, hey, like, if I know that I'm falling off, I'm gonna text you and you're gonna send me a text back saying, like, you know Mel's gonna be pissed at you if you fall off this way. Whatever it is, okay? Okay, how are you gonna get back on track? Think about that. The thing about nutrition, guys, and the last thing I'll leave with you here on the helpful tips is you're gonna get in what you put out. You're gonna get out what you put in. Said that wrong. Okay. So the effort that you put in, that you put in is gonna matter. We all had to get there.
I guess I'm going out tonight.
Big pin.
But yeah, it's written in caps because it's the most important piece about a challenge like this, right? When you're in here and you're talking to your buddies, like, it's easy to be like, yep, okay, I can make good decisions, but when you're out there applying it day after day after day, the monotony of it, that's when it gets hard, okay? But the more that you can find ways to keep moving through that, keep trying to get those stars on the board, talking to your buddies, right? Keep going. That's when you're actually gonna see the needle move towards that fitness, okay? But if you half-ass it, okay, you're gonna get out what you put in. Cool? Questions?
We're 12.
Any questions?
Yes, we are 12.
We had some children during the lecture. No? Okay,
Not yet.
not yet.
But we
Okay.
can always come to you like during the challenge as things go, as things come up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so what we're gonna do, guys, is I'll take one person, one by one in here, so we have some privacy, okay? For the measurements, so you have that. If you have to leave soon, let me know, we'll get you in first, okay? But it should only be like 2 or 3 minutes per person, cool? Questions?
I need to pee.
Do we have to
first.
strip?
No, you do not strip, you do not strip. You're gonna need to take your shoes off, bare feet, right? Bare feet. That's really all I need, okay? So whoever needs to leave first, come with me. You're going first.
I want a true weight.
You got it. I'm gonna open up the door. And you, so I'll have you go this way, Jess. Yeah. And we'll still keep this in right. Okay, it's first. Guys.
Can I close it or no?
I'll go. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
I'll go
Yeah.
the closet.
You got it.
Let me
It's
get
all right,
this
don't worry about it,
way.
don't worry about it, it's fine.
I'll
No.
meet you in there. You gotta take your shoes off and your socks.
While
While if you're not getting your measurements, try to find that partner. Come up with that plan.